I never thought the day would come when my own brother would look me in the eyes, in front of our entire family, and tell me I was being kicked out of my own house. And the craziest part, it happened at my dad's birthday party, with everyone watching, forks frozen mid-air, mouths open, waiting for my reaction like it was some kind of reality TV show. I remember the way my heart pounded like it wanted to tear out of my chest, and the heat that rushed into my face as if every humiliating moment in my life came back all at once. What would you have done if your own brother announced that you were being evicted? Publicly, from a home you paid for, you renovated, and you invited him into out of kindness. Would I be wrong for what I did afterward? Because sometimes even I replay it and wonder if there was a better way, but then I remember the expression on his face, smug, satisfied, like he'd been waiting for this moment. But to understand why everything exploded that night, I need to go back to the beginning, because none of this started at that birthday dinner. It started much earlier, with small things I ignored and warnings I brushed aside, thinking I was just being paranoid or dramatic. This is the story of how my brother tried to take everything from me, and how I learned the hard way that family can sometimes be the last people you should trust blindly. Growing up, my brother and I weren't the closest, but we weren't enemies either. He was the golden child, the one who got praised for everything, even things he barely put effort into. I was the steady one, the reliable one, the one who actually got things done. He was the storm, I was the anchor. My parents loved us both, but they coddled him in a way that I didn't fully understand until I became an adult. He was always protected, always rescued, always excused. Late homework. He's going through a phase. Another job lost. The boss didn't appreciate his creativity. Relationship issues. He loves deeply, that's his problem. And me. I was the one who got the "we're proud of you but" speeches. They were proud, sure, but never impressed. I was expected to be responsible. I was expected to succeed. I was expected to keep it all together. Meanwhile, my brother could fail catastrophically and somehow still be considered full of potential. I didn't resent him for it growing up, but I definitely noticed. Fast forward to adulthood, and the patterns didn't change. I'd worked hard, saved, invested, and after years of renting, I finally bought my own house. It wasn't a mansion, but it was mine. Every corner, every room, every brick felt like a symbol of the life I'd built for myself. I'd renovated half of it with my own hands, and I was proud, really proud. My brother, on the other hand, bounced from job to job, apartment to apartment, girlfriend to girlfriend. He always had some dramatic explanation for why things didn't work out. And eventually, after one especially chaotic breakup, he showed up at my place with a suitcase and a shaky voice, asking if he could stay just for a few weeks until he got things sorted out. I hesitated for a moment, but he was my brother, blood family. And I didn't want to turn him away when he clearly had nowhere else to go, so I said yes. Worst mistake I ever made. At first, things were fine. He was grateful, polite, almost overly helpful. He bought groceries a couple of times, washed dishes without being asked, and even fixed a few small things around the house. He kept saying stuff like, "I owe you big time," and "I won't forget this, bro." It felt good, honestly, like maybe this was the turning point in our relationship. Maybe we'd finally become close in a real, adult way. Maybe he'd stop drifting and start acting like someone who wanted stability. But then the shift happened. It always does with him. Little things at first. He stopped offering to help. He became more comfortable, too comfortable. He started leaving his stuff everywhere. The kitchen counter, the living room floor, the hallway. He blasted music late at night. He left dishes in the sink. He'd eat my food I specifically said was for meal prep, then shrug and say, "I'll replace it later," which he never did. He started inviting his friends over without asking me, and some of them were the sketchy type who looked at my stuff like they were calculating what could fit in their pockets. But the worst part was how he started acting like the house was his. He had opinions on everything. Where the furniture should be. What decor I should get rid of because it's boring. When people could visit. He even got annoyed when I had friends over, as if I was invading Cha's space. The guy who was supposed to stay for a few weeks slowly acted like he had permanent residence. When I confronted him, he always had the same excuses. "I'm stressed. I'm trying my best. You don't understand what I'm going through." And I stupidly backed off each time. I didn't want to be the bad guy. He was family, after all. But the real turning point came when he started getting mail delivered to my address. At first it was small envelopes, stuff like bank letters and job-related mail. I didn't think much of it, but then I noticed more and more. Packages, official documents, even a credit card in his name addressed to my house. I confronted him again, and he said, "Relax, it's just temporary. I needed an address for some forms." But something in his tone felt off. Like he wasn't asking for permission. Like it was already decided. This wasn't the brother who begged for a place to stay. This was someone who felt entitled to my home. The tension grew silently between us, like a heavy fog no one talked about but everyone felt. Every time I brought something up, he twisted it into an attack. And every time I tried to set boundaries, he found ways to ignore or push past them. But I kept putting off the inevitable conversation. The one where I'd have to tell him to move out. I knew he'd blow up, and I didn't want to deal with it. I kept telling myself I'd wait a little longer, that he'd find a job, that things would get better. I tried to be patient, but then came my dad's birthday. We decided to host it at my place. My dad loved my house and always said it felt warm and inviting. So I agreed. I cleaned for hours, prepped food, decorated, got everything ready. Family arrived one by one, filling the house with laughter and chatter. Dad was happy, truly happy, sitting at the head of the table with that proud, dad smile he always had. My brother was there too, acting like the perfect host. Passing out drinks, cracking jokes. Sitting at the seat next to Dad like he was the co-owner of the house. I tried to ignore the irritation bubbling inside me. It was Dad's day, not the moment for another argument. Dinner went smoothly at first. Everyone was eating, talking, sharing old stories. And then, right as the cake was brought out and the room quieted for a moment, it happened. My brother cleared his throat loudly and stood up. He raised his glass and tapped it with his ring, getting everyone's attention. I remember the exact sinking feeling in my stomach. Something about his expression told me this wasn't a normal toast. He had that same smug smile he wore whenever he was about to stir up some chaos. "To Dad," he said, lifting his glass, "Happy birthday. And thank you for everything you've done for us." Everyone smiled, clinked their glasses, and I thought maybe, just maybe. I was overthinking it. Then he continued. "And on this special day, I also wanted to share some family news. Something important." My heart dropped. The room quieted. My mom looked curious. My dad raised an eyebrow, and I felt my pulse in my ears. My brother took a deep breath and delivered the sentence that flipped my entire world upside down. "So, after talking with everyone," he gestured vaguely at the table, even though he had spoken to Nanoni, "I've decided that it's time for some changes around here. Starting next month, my brother here will be moving out, and I'll be taking over the house full time." For a moment, I thought I'd misheard him. I froze. Everyone did. Then he added, with this sickening confidence, "Yeah, we agreed it makes more sense. He's barely home and I need the space more. So I'll be staying, and he'll be moving out." The entire table erupted in confusion. Gasps, whispers, shifting chairs. My mom looked horrified. My dad looked angry. But my brother, he looked satisfied, like he'd just delivered a masterstroke. My voice finally came back. "What the hell are you talking about?" He didn't even flinch. "Bro, don't make a scene. We never talked about this." I shot back. He shrugged. "Well, I talked to Mom, and she said it made sense. You don't even need this house. You travel. You're barely here. I'm the one who's consistent, and honestly, you can afford to get your own place again." I felt something snap inside me. He had spoken to Mom only time weeks ago about feeling uncomfortable at my place, and now he twisted it into some imaginary agreement. Everyone stared at me like they were trying to figure out what drama they just stepped into. But my brother kept going. "I've already started handling some things. I updated my address for stuff, and I talked to a lawyer." That's when I realized the mail wasn't just temporary. He had been planning this, preparing, positioning himself legally. My mom finally spoke. "What lawyer?" He waved his hand dismissively. "Just someone who explained tenant rights and occupancy. Technically speaking, I've lived here long enough that I can't just be kicked out. But HE can move if he wants. So that's what we're doing. I'll stay. He'll leave." I swear the room tilted. My own brother was trying to forcefully take over my own house. And he announced it at my father's birthday, like it was some public proclamation. I clenched my fists under the table because I swear if I stood up, I might have done something I'd regret forever. And the worst part, he looked so confident because he thought I wouldn't do anything. He thought I'd just accept it. He thought he'd won. Before I get into what I said next, and before the night spiraled even further, let me stop here and ask you directly, what would you have done if someone, your own sibling, tried to publicly evict you from your own house? If someone planned behind your back, twisted your kindness, used the law against you, and tried to humiliate you in front of your family. Before I tell you what happened after that moment, take a second and think about it. Would you have stayed calm? Would you have exploded? Would you have kicked him out right then and there? Because trust me, what happened next was something no one at that table was prepared for. When my brother finished speaking, the entire room fell into this stunned, suffocating silence. It was the kind of silence that feels heavy, like the air thickens and presses down on every inch of your skin. My dad's fork dropped, clattering against his plate. My mom had her hand over her mouth, eyes wide, like she couldn't decide whether to scream or faint. The cousins shifted awkwardly. Some pretended to look away. Others watched us with the kind of morbid curiosity people had when they sensed drama brewing. And me, I felt something cold settle into my bones. Not fear, not shock, something deeper, a clarity. A realization that the brother I had tried so hard to help wasn't confused, or struggling, or lost. He was intentionally trying to take everything from me. He had planned this. He had been waiting for a moment with witnesses, with emotional pressure, with family guilt hanging in the air. He thought he could back me into a corner. He thought saying it loudly, publicly, would force me to accept it. I stared at him, really stared at him, and for the first time in my life, I saw him not as my brother, but as someone who genuinely believed he deserved to take what was mine. And that was the moment something in me shifted. My voice came out calm, too calm. "Sit down?" I said. He blinked, confused. "Bro, I'm trying to talk. Sit down." He hesitated for a second, then slowly sat back down, probably thinking he'd won because I wasn't yelling. But I wasn't calm because I agreed. I was calm because I finally understood exactly who I was dealing with. I looked at everyone else first. "I'm sorry this is happening at Dad's birthday. I didn't want tonight to turn into this." Then I turned to my brother. "You're not staying in my house, and I am not moving out." He scoffed loudly like I was being ridiculous. "You don't get to decide that alone. You can't just kick me out. I talked to a lawyer." "No, you didn't," I interrupted. "You talked to a guy on TikTok or some random article that made you tyke you have tenant rights." His face reddened. "You don't know what You've lived with me for barely 3 months. You've never paid rent, never paid bills, never contributed financially. I let you stay as a favor, not as a tenant. You're not on a lease, you don't have a rental agreement, and you haven't been here long enough to claim anything." He opened his mouth, but I cut him off again. "And on top of that, this house is paid off. In MY name only. Every bill, every renovation, every piece of furniture, I paid for." I could feel the energy in the room shift. People were starting to realize the full picture. My brother tried to laugh it off. "You're being dramatic." Mom said it made sense. My mom snapped her head toward him. Her voice cut through the room like a blade. "I never said that. I said you two should talk. I didn't say he should move out." But my brother doubled down. "Mom, you basically implied it?" "No," she said firmly. "I didn't." My dad chimed in then, and his voice was low, tense, the way it got when he was genuinely angry. "Son, this is H's house, H's property. You don't get to decide any of this." But my brother wasn't backing down. He leaned forward, eyes locked on me, and said something that still echoes in my head. "You don't deserve this house anyway." It felt like someone slapped me. "What?" He smirked. "You don't even use it. You barely live here. You're always traveling for work or staying at your girlfriend's place. I'm the one who actually lives here day to day. Why shouldn't I stay?" I stared at him, stunned. "Because it's not your house. But I need it more." And that's when I realized the truth. He didn't see my success as something I earned. He saw it as something he was entitled to. Something that should have been his. Maybe because he was the older brother. Maybe because he thought life owed him. Maybe because he'd been coddled for so long he thought every good thing in the family belonged to him first. I took a deep breath and said, "You're leaving. Not next month. Not in a few weeks. You're leaving tonight." He exploded out of his chair. "You can't do that?" "Yes," I said, "I can." He looked around the room, begging for support, but everyone was silent. Even the cousins who usually sided with him didn't say a word. My dad crossed his arms. "Your brother has been nothing but generous letting you stay. Don't abuse that." But my brother wasn't listening anymore. He was spiraling. "I've lived here long enough to have rights. You can't throw me out without a formal eviction." I looked it up. "You have to give me 30 days notice. I know the law." I shrugged. "Okay. If you want to play that game, we'll play it right. You want tenant rights? Then you'll need to provide proof that you pay rent. His mouth opened, then closed. You'll need proof you pay utilities. Silence. Proof you're a legal occupant. Nothing. But sure, I said, if you want me to treat you like a tenant, I'll file a formal eviction. And guess what? Tenants who threaten homeowners or attempt to claim ownership can be removed by police. His eyes widened then, and I saw it, the first flicker of fear. Real fear, because deep down, he knew he had no legal basis. He knew he'd pushed too far. He tried to start backpedaling. Bro, come on, we can talk about this later. Not in front of everyone. You made it public, I reminded him. You embarrassed me publicly. You tried to humiliate me publicly. So we're finishing it publicly? He clenched his jaw. You're being a jerk? No, I said. I'm being done. I pushed my chair back and stood up. You have 15 minutes to pack your essentials. After that, if you're still here, I'm calling the police and saying you're trespassing. My mom gasped softly. Not because she disagreed, but because she didn't expect I'd say it out loud. My dad nodded slightly, giving me silent support. But my brother, he lost it.
You wouldn't dare. Try me.
The table was silent except for the sound of him breathing hard like a bull ready to charge. Then, in a furious blur, he stormed away from the table, shoving his chair so hard it fell over. He stomped down the hallway, yelling about how ungrateful I was, how heartless, how this family always treats me like garbage. No one followed him, not even my mom. And that was telling. For 10 long minutes, the family sat around awkwardly. My dad apologized to me. My mom apologized to both of us, as if she was responsible for everything somehow. I went into the kitchen and started clearing dishes, mostly because I needed something to do with my hands before I broke something. Then my brother came back into the living room with 2 duffel bags. I hope you're happy, he spat. Throwing your own brother out? Leave the house keys? I said calmly. They're my keys? No, they're not. You never had a set. I lent you one because you kept losing yours. Leave. The keys. He threw them so hard they hit the wall. Then he stormed out, slamming the door behind him hard enough to rattle the frame. And just like that, the house felt peaceful again. Heavy, but peaceful. Except it wasn't over, not by a long shot, because 2 hours later, after the party ended and the relatives left, there was a loud banging on my front door. When I opened it, there were 2 police officers, and my brother standing behind them with his arms crossed, fake crying, telling them I had illegally locked him out of his residence. My stomach dropped. He was really trying to use the system. He had actually called the cops. One of the officers stepped forward, calm and professional. Sir, we got a report that someone was locked out of their home. I took a breath. Officer, this is my house. I own it outright. My brother was staying temporarily. He has no lease, no rental agreement, and no mail proving long-term residence. He attempted to claim ownership during a family gathering, and I asked him to leave. The officer nodded. Do you have proof you're the owner? I did. I had the deed and utility bills in a folder in my office. When I handed them over, the officer flipped through them carefully. My brother's face slowly drained of color. Then the other officer asked him, How long have you lived here? A few months, he muttered. Do you pay rent? Not formally. Do you pay any household bills? I mean, I help out sometimes. Do you have anything with this address on it? Mail ID? Anything? He hesitated too long. No, the officer sighed. Sir, this is not your legal residence. You were a guest. He has the right to ask you to leave. My brother's mouth fell open. Are you serious?
You're taking Ace's side.
The officer looked at him like he was exhausted from years of dealing with people like him. It's not about sides. It's the law. You need to leave the property. If you return without permission, you can be charged with trespassing. My brother pointed at me with shaking hands. This is unbelievable. Then he turned around and stalked down the driveway, muttering curses under his breath. The officers apologized for the inconvenience and left. And finally, the house was quiet. But the emotional crash hit me like a truck. I sat on the couch alone, staring at the wall, feeling this mixture of nausea, relief, anger, sadness, and disappointment all swirling in my chest. That night I barely slept. I kept expecting him to come back, to bang on the door again, to cause more chaos. But he didn't. The next morning, my parents came over. My mom cried. My dad was quiet. He hugged me and said, You did the right thing. But I didn't feel good. I felt guilty. Not because I made him leave, but because I finally saw the truth. I had enabled him for years. We all had. Every time he failed, someone rescued him. Every time he made a bad decision, someone softened the consequences. And this time, when I finally said no, he tried to punish me for it. For the next few days, things were tense. Word spread through the family. Some relatives reached out to support me. Others, the ones who always babied my brother, sent passive, aggressive messages like, "Family should stick together," and "You shouldn't throw blood out on the street." But I held firm, and then 3 days later, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. It was the lawyer my brother claimed to have spoken to. Except he wasn't a lawyer. He was a legal aid volunteer he had messaged online asking how to take over a house if you live there. The man apologized and said he told my brother multiple times he had no rights to claim the house, but my brother twisted it into something else entirely. That gave me closure. He didn't misunderstand. He lied. He manipulated. He weaponized family and tried to steal from me. A week later, I changed every lock in the house. I installed cameras. I boxed up the rest of his things and left them at my parents' place. And for the first time in months, the house felt like mine again. But the real aftermath. My brother cut contact for 2 months. No calls, no texts, nothing. Then, out of nowhere, he showed up at a family barbecue acting like nothing had happened, making small talk, laughing, pretending he hadn't tried to take my house. He approached me and said, "We're good now?" I stared at him, stunned. "Do you even understand what you did?" He rolled his eyes. "You're still hung up on that?" I was stressed, man. I wasn't thinking clearly. "You planned it for weeks." "Yeah, well, I plan stupid stuff when I'm stressed." I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I just said calmly, "We're not good, and you're not welcome at my house again. Ever." His face twisted with anger again. "Seriously, you're still being dramatic." I walked away. For good. And over time, my relationship with my parents actually improved. My dad respects my boundaries now. My mom finally sees that protecting my brother wasn't helping him. It was feeding his entitlement. As for my brother, he eventually moved into a shared apartment. He's still chaotic, still dramatic, still convinced the world owes him something. But he knows one thing now: there are limits with me, and he can't cross them again. So that's what happened. My own brother tried to evict me from my own house, and instead he ended up losing access to the only place he felt comfortable freeloading in. And honestly, I don't regret any of it, but I'm curious what you think. Was I wrong for kicking him out immediately? Should I have given him more time? Or was I right to end it the moment he tried to claim something that was never his? Like this video if you think I handled it the right way. Subscribe for more stories like this, and tell me in the comments what you would have done in my place. I'll see you all in the next story.